What if the woman you can't forget was never really her? What if you weren't actually in love with her, but with a part of yourself you lost a long time ago? And what if Carl Jung had already seen it all coming? The truth is hard to swallow. Most men don't fall in love with a woman. They fall into a projection, an unconscious image of the feminine their soul has been starving for. They think they've found the one, but what they've really found is the mirror. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, once wrote, "Every man carries within him the eternal image of woman, not the image of this or that particular woman, but a definite feminine image." That image, called the Anima in Carl Jung's psychology, doesn't just shape who we fall for. It possesses us. And that is where the suffering begins. This is where the real shadow work begins, too, confronting the unconscious projections we mistake for love. Generations of fathers and grandfathers, perhaps never equipped or dared to confront their inner emotional landscapes, have passed down an invisible inheritance. Consequently, countless men today find themselves bearing the weight of this unprocessed, unlived emotional history. This burden manifests in a critical, often inconvenient truth. Many men do not perceive women as they genuinely are, but rather as their own souls desperately need them to be. What we frequently label love is in reality a complex tapestry of projection. This exploration is not an indictment of women, nor is it fueled by resentment. Its purpose is singular and profound awakening. It seeks to illuminate the unconscious forces that silently sculpt our heartbreaks, fuel our obsessions, and drive our addictions, particularly our profound, often unexamined addiction to the feminine. Until we bring these hidden dynamics into conscious awareness, we are doomed to repeat the same painful patterns, mistakenly believing we are making choices, when in truth, we are being compelled by something far deeper and unseen. Jung identified this potent inner force as the anima, the inherent feminine aspect residing within every man's psyche. She functions as the soul's intuitive mirror, mysterious, emotional, creative, and undeniably magnetic. She is not an adversarial force. She is sacred. However, the peril arises when she remains unconscious. In this state, she does not subtly influence. She possesses. Suddenly, the women encountered are no longer merely individuals. They are transformed into goddesses, saviors, or perceived soulmates. Consider the scenario: you meet a woman. She captivates you with her beauty, her ability to listen, the way she makes you feel profoundly seen. Within mere minutes, an insistent voice whispers internally, "She's the one." Jung would describe this not as destiny, but as psychic possession. As Carl Jung would argue, you are not genuinely falling in love with her. You are plummeting into the depths of your own unconscious. You are not encountering her true self. You are confronting the parts of yourself that have been ignored, repressed, or perhaps never acknowledged. The anima in her unconscious state seductively whispers promises, "She will save you. She will complete you. She is different." Yet it is not her you are truly pursuing. It is your own lost soul momentarily glimpsed and reflected in another's physical form. This is not the essence of romance. It is a manifestation of spiritual starvation. When the anima remains unconscious, she gains autonomy. She becomes a siren, luring you with irresistible fantasies and dragging you into emotional chaos. This is not born of malice, but rather a desperate, unconscious plea for your attention. Every instance of idealizing a woman becoming consumed by obsession or feeling utterly shattered by her departure is not a testament to love. It is the cry of your inner feminine yearning for you to finally turn inward and come home to yourself. Here lies the critical danger Jung illuminated. If you fail to consciously engage with your anima, if you do not meet her within your own psyche, she will inevitably meet you without. She becomes the architect behind your attraction to women who confuse you, who draw you in only to mysteriously withdraw, who reward your compliance and subtly punish your attempts at standing in your authentic power. And when they inevitably pull away, you crumble, having mistakenly equated their fleeting attention with your own salvation. This painful cycle is not love. It is a form of spiritual possession. It is the raw hunger of a man who has never been shown how to cultivate his own inner completeness. If one sought to control such a man, no physical chains would be necessary. Simply allow him to become ensnared by his own projections. Regrettably, many men in contemporary society were not nurtured to be rooted in their own being or taught the power of authentic presence. Instead, they were conditioned for performance, often specifically for female validation. They learned to please to seek approval, and to tragically confuse external validation with intrinsic self-worth. Thus, when a seductive woman enters his life, the unconscious man does not perceive potential warning signs. He sees her as a lifeline. But the unvarnished truth is this: no one can rescue you from yourself. Not a partner, not a cherished fantasy, not even the deepest pain. Only you hold that power. The profound journey of healing commences the precise moment you cease projecting your soul's yearnings outward and courageously embark upon the journey inward. Only then does the possibility emerge to truly love a woman, as she is free from the heavy burden of needing her to fulfill your own unmet needs. This dynamic is a psychic trap exquisitely calibrated. To the unconscious man, it registers with the intensity of passion, the certainty of destiny, the profound feeling of love. And that is its inherent danger. She doesn't need to manipulate him. He orchestrates his own manipulation. He surrenders his inherent masculinity, not because she demands it, but because his soul was never taught how to safeguard its own integrity. He will silence his deepest truth for a fleeting kiss, trade his authenticity for transient attention, perform pleas and diminish himself, all in the desperate hope of being chosen. Yet a crucial, often unspoken truth exists: the more of yourself you relinquish in the pursuit of being loved, the less respect you ultimately command. Authentic love cannot flourish in the absence of truth. When a man abandons his own essence in a desperate bid for connection, he does not discover intimacy. He finds only quiet, corrosive humiliation. Jung did not label this dynamic as evil. He deemed it inevitable, the predictable outcome for a man who has not undergone the process of individuation, a man who has not yet become psychologically whole. Such a man is starving for transcendence, for meaning, for something larger than the confines of his immediate existence. Consequently, he desperately latches onto the first woman who seems to reflect even a glimmer of soulfulness. However, she is not the fundamental problem. What she represents is the crux of the issue. She becomes a potent portal, a living, breathing symbol, imbued with purpose. Suddenly, she is no longer simply a woman. She embodies meaning itself. And this transference renders her overwhelmingly powerful, often without her even trying. Her silence becomes a torment, her attention an intoxicating elixir, her absence a crushing weight. This is not love, it is servitude, a man enslaved not by the woman herself, but by the vast unmet regions of his own being. Jung did not romanticize women. He deeply revered their inherent power and issued a stark warning to men who failed to do the same. The unconscious feminine energy holds two distinct faces: the nurturing muse, who inspires creativity and life, and the seductive chaos that threatens to devour it. One offers healing, the other relentless haunting. Just as men carry the Anima Jung taught, that women carry the animus, the inner masculine. When a woman has not integrated her animus, it doesn't serve as wise guidance. It exerts tyrannical control. She may become hypercritical, emotionally rigid, and cold. She might dominate demand, and even demean not out of inherent cruelty, but as a defensive mechanism desperately protecting herself from the very vulnerability and softness she has been conditioned to reject. And if you are a man governed by your unconscious anima, your unintegrated inner feminine, you will be powerfully drawn to this woman. Not because she is a complementary partner, but because she mirrors your deepest, perhaps unacknowledged childhood wound, the primal craving to be loved by a feminine force that once felt distant or rejecting. You will rationalize this pull, calling her strong or labeling it chemistry. But in reality, you are engaged in a subconscious attempt to rewrite a painful past. This is how unresolved trauma masquerades as romance. This is how ingrained childhood patterns cunningly disguise themselves as fate until we unravel them through committed shadow work. The modern woman, often disconnected from her own sacred feminine depths, is not inherently malevolent. She is frequently inflamed. She has been fed the pervasive cultural lie that power is synonymous with control, that dominance equates to strength, and that vulnerability is a mark of weakness. Consequently, her animus does not function as a source of inner wisdom, but drives her actions with unyielding tyranny. Her communication stems not from an open heart, but from defensive fortification. It is delivered not with warmth, but with a chilling detachment. When this woman encounters the man ruled by his unconscious anima, the fractured feminine meets the fragmented masculine, the result is not the gentle fusion of love, but often a volatile combustion. They are magnetized toward each other, compelled not by the call of the soul, but by the gravitational pull of the shadow. Their connection is not for mutual healing, but for the unconscious reenactment of old wounds. He perceives her ferocity and misinterprets it as strength. She perceives his emotional openness born of unconscious anima, and mistakes it for safety. Neither is whole. They are not functioning as true partners. They are archetypes desperately clinging to each other in a precarious search for equilibrium. The only pathway out of this destructive cycle lies inward. Until she undertakes the challenging work of integrating her animus, she will unconsciously dismantle every connection with a man who attempts to save her. And until he consciously integrates his anima, he will relentlessly pursue women who, by mirroring his own unintegrated parts, inevitably consume the very aspects of himself he has never learned to acknowledge or defend. Jung's profound insight rings true. What we love in others is what we haven't yet owned in ourselves. That woman who occupies your thoughts so completely, she is likely holding a precious part of your soul that you haven't yet dared to claim. Her captivating mystery might be a reflection of your own lack of inner direction. Her apparent confidence, a mirror for your repressed masculine strength. Her beauty, a stark reflection of your buried yearning for wholeness. You do not truly love her. You love the part of yourself she momentarily awakened. This is precisely why that her departure can feel like a profound death. It is not merely the loss of her, but the perceived loss of that glimpsed, unclaimed part of your lost self. Much of modern dating, viewed through a Jungian lens, is not genuine intimacy. It is mutual projection. Two individuals frantically seeking mirrors, not mirrors reflecting authentic truth, but reflections of cherished fantasies. This is why such connections often prove ephemeral. You did not meet a person in their full humanity, but a symbol designed by your unconscious. And symbols by their nature cannot text back. Projection feels intoxicatingly like destiny, but it is ultimately just fantasy, desperately cloaked in need. When you cast your anima onto a woman, you cease to see her as she is. You see only what you desperately need salvation to look like. You elevate her to the status of a goddess, a healer, a muse. Yet she is not divine. She is fundamentally human. And the moment she inevitably disappoints your idealized image by simply being herself, the fragile illusion shatters. And with it, so do you. Projection operates unconsciously. You do not choose it, it chooses you. Because it feels so intensely spiritual, so overwhelming in its perceived connection, you tragically mistake it for authentic intimacy. But it is not connection. It is compensation. You are not falling in love. You are collapsing into a compensation pattern, one that can only be broken through conscious shadow work and deep emotional integration. You are assigning the unlived, unseen, and unclaimed facets of your own being onto another person, and tragically labeling this dynamic as fate. This is the root cause of falling so intensely for certain individuals. It is not their inherent magic alone. It is the reflection of your own disowned magic that they unconsciously mirror back to you. She does not possess something you fundamentally lack. She reflects something you have forgotten about yourself. And because you cannot yet perceive this potent quality within yourself, it feels divine when it appears manifest in her. But here is the liberating truth. If your genuine desire is for authentic love, you must courageously dismantle the projection. If you seek to know your true soul, you must embark on the arduous journey of reclaiming it from the external world. For until you undertake this vital work, every romance will remain a beautiful, fragile mirror destined to crack under the unbearable weight of your own unmet, projected self. This pattern is not random. It is not the cruel hand of bad luck. It is a predictable, repeating blueprint. You may encounter countless different women, but you find yourself trapped within the same emotional architecture. She might be cold, yet charismatic, intensely affectionate, then suddenly aloof. She lures you in, then vanishes. She punishes your healthy boundaries and rewards your submission. She may weep when you create space, but disappears when you stand firm in your power. And despite the pain, you keep returning. Not because it is love, but because it is devastatingly familiar. Carl Jung termed this a repeating complex, a psychic loop forged in the crucible of early life, born from unresolved wounds and interactions with the feminine. The emotionally absent mother, the distant caretaker, the shaming teacher, or the formative first love who instilled a sense of unworthiness. You may not consciously recognize this pattern, but your unconscious psyche knows it intimately. This is precisely why you often do not feel naturally drawn to healthy, stable love. You mistake genuine peace for unsettling boredom. You perceive calm as insufficient because your nervous system has been wired, perhaps since childhood, to believe that chaos equates to love, unpredictability signifies passion, and pain is the only true evidence of being alive. Here is the raw, undeniable truth: you are not cursed in love. You are simply trapped in the painful reenactment of a trauma that has never been fully healed. This repeating pattern is not a punishment. It is an initiation, one you have consistently, perhaps unknowingly, refused to complete. You were meant to encounter these challenging patterns, not become ensnared by them. You were not meant to fall in love with them or build your life around their turbulent energy. Yet that is precisely what often happens. You find yourself dating your wound dressed up in a new guise, bearing a different name, but generating the identical familiar ache. Because the feminine energy you are drawn to is frequently merely your unhealed, pain-wearing lipstick. And no matter how many times your conscious mind insists, "She's different this time," your soul recognized the ending long before the first message was even sent. Jung taught that the psyche relentlessly repeats what it fails to repair. Thus, your heartbreaks, your experiences of bad luck in relationships, are not random coincidences. They are urgent cries emanating from your unconscious, desperately begging you to cease sleepwalking through your desires and your life. And until you consciously awaken to these cries, you will continue to attract the same kind of intense fire that tragically only knows how to consume you. The true work of healing begins the moment you cease posing the disempowering question, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and instead courageously ask, "What is this trying to reveal to me about myself?" That fundamental shift in perspective is when the spell begins to break. That is when she ceases to be merely your fantasy and begins to become your profound teacher. A man governed primarily by his unconscious anima, an anima-driven man, is not authentically a lover. He is fundamentally a seeker, desperately searching for something sacred outside of himself, embodied in another person. He is inherently reactive, easily susceptible to seduction, and spiritually hollow, constantly chasing a sense of completion in the form of a woman. He does not lead. He pleads. He does not attract genuine connection. He adapts his behavior to others. He is not sovereign in his being. He is suggestible, easily swayed by external forces. This kind of man, operating from a place of internal fragmentation, does not inspire devotion in a partner. Tragically, he inspires manipulation. Not because he is inherently weak, but because he is unclaimed. He has not yet consciously taken ownership of his inner world. He possesses a potent fire within his chest, but lacks the inner direction to channel that flame constructively. So what does he do? He allows women to define his worth. He permits external attention to crown him with a temporary sense of wholeness. He waits for a kiss to validate the very essence of his soul. He longs for the feminine to rescue him, tragically unaware that genuine rescue must originate from the depths of his own being. This man exists in a state of profound spiritual dependency. He clings to the belief that love will ultimately save him, that romance holds the power to restore him, that intimacy will finally silence the inner turmoil that rages within. But it never does. Because he is not truly chasing a woman. He is chasing the elusive concept of transcendence, reaching desperately for the divine, but tragically settling for its mere projection onto another human being. And until he confronts the stark reality that no woman, no matter how extraordinary, can bear the immense weight of his own unlived soul, he will remain perpetually trapped in cycles of obsessive pursuit, crushing collapse, and debilitating shame. Carl Jung understood this painful pattern intimately. He did not condemn those caught within it. He devoted himself to studying it, decoding its intricate mechanisms. And, in doing so, he offered a truth that most men are still profoundly unprepared to hear. You do not fundamentally need to be loved by another. You need to be fully reclaimed by yourself. Jung perceived a truth that continues to elude many men. When a man lacks genuine inner initiation, he unconsciously seeks it through the feminine. But the crucial reality is this: she cannot bestow that initiation upon him. She is not his rite of passage, his gateway to manhood. She is a mirror, a reflection, and what she reflects back is the undeniable truth of whether he has undertaken the necessary inner work, or tragically, whether he has not. Until you cease outsourcing your intrinsic worth to her gaze, until you stop passively waiting for her to somehow crown you worthy through her attention or affection, you will never fully embody the man she could truly admire. You will remain merely another shadow orbiting her perceived flame, mistaking the fleeting heat for genuine love, and inevitably burning yourself in the process. Now here is a particularly brutal truth that many men find deeply unsettling. Women do not desire you in the way you might think. They desire what awakens within them when you show up, when you bring a certain energy, presence, or quality into their lives. It is not solely about your physical attributes or achievements. It is about what you represent to their own unconscious psyche. To a woman who remains unconscious of her own inner dynamics, you as a man often represent one of four archetypal possibilities. The ghost of her unresolved father, wound a compliant servant to her ego's demands, a perceived threat to her need for control, or a confronting mirror of her own very unexamined shadow aspects. Tragically, many modern women are not consciously seeking a whole, integrated man. They are often seeking an emotional drug, a quick fix, a hit of validation to soothe their own deep disconnection from their authentic feminine soul. But consider what happens when you show up in the world as a man who is truly whole, grounded in his being, deeply aware of himself, disciplined in his energy, and fully present in the moment. Such a man will elicit one of two profound responses. She will either be genuinely terrified by your unshakable presence, or she will be fundamentally transformed by it. But she will never be indifferent. That in itself is a critical test. If your sovereign presence does not stir something significant within her, whether awe or fear, it suggests you may not yet be integrated enough to truly reach her unconscious depth. Female desire is complex and multi-layered, but it is not random. Jung taught that, like men, women are profoundly shaped by their unconscious landscape. Consequently, their deepest attractions are not purely logical. They are fundamentally symbolic. They are not primarily drawn to superficial status. They are drawn to profound meaning. And in a culture that often feels spiritually bankrupt, most men sadly do not offer that depth of meaning. They offer performance compliance or mere entertainment. However, a man who is truly integrated, he doesn't merely excite her nervous system with manufactured drama. He commands her presence, her deep attention, not through exertion of force, but through the quiet power of his own embodied being. She can sense it instinctively when you remain steady in the face of her silence, when her outward beauty does not destabilize your inner truth, when her subtle emotional games fail to dislodge your core center. That is when something ancient and profound stirs within her genuine respect. Authentic desire is not earned through ceaseless effort or performance. It is evoked through powerful, grounded embodiment. You do not win her over. You become, through your presence and inner work, the very part of her own psyche she has struggled to make peace with, the potent masculine she may both fear and deeply crave, the masculine energy that does not seek to dominate her, but possesses the profound depth and strength to hold space for her. Because if your presence doesn't challenge her unintegrated animus on a fundamental level, she will likely never truly open her deepest self to you. She will attempt to control you. She will subtly or overtly resent you, and she will eventually outgrow you psychologically. But if your presence touches the part of her soul that trembles in recognition of authentic, integrated masculine energy, then surface desire has the potential to transform into profound devotion. To genuinely integrate your anima. The path is clear, though arduous. You must cease the outward pursuit of women and courageously turn inward to face the landscape of your own soul. You must become, in a psychological sense, dangerous, not violent or toxic, but deeply sovereign within yourself. A man who knows fundamentally who he is cannot be manipulated by external beauty or charm. He sees through superficial seduction. He does not collapse emotionally when affection is withdrawn. He does not beg for attention or validation. He does not trade his deepest truth for the promise of intimacy, because he is complete within his own being. This integrated man does not need the feminine to complete him. He chooses her from a place of internal fullness, and a woman can feel that profound difference in her bones. It resonates on a level far deeper than conscious thought. When a man achieves this level of anima integration, he becomes, in a sense, terrifying to a culture fundamentally built upon spiritual dependency and external validation. Why? Because he possesses the inherent freedom and strength to walk away from dynamics that compromise his integrity. Because he is not seduced by the superficial surface. Because his capacity for genuine love is not available for sale or negotiation. The truth is, most women have simply never encountered a man like this. A man whose center is so grounded that he does not get drawn into their chaos, who does not crave their approval as a primary driver, who does not lose himself in the narrative of their life drama. This is a man who perceives women not as potential saviors or sources of validation, but as powerful symbols illuminating the path of his own ongoing inner work. He is no longer propelled by unhealed wounds masquerading as affection. He does not react impulsively. He observes with clarity. He does not cling out of fear. He chooses deliberately from a place of strength. He does not perform for external approval. He embodies his authentic self. To women who are still predominantly ruled by their own unconscious animus, their unintegrated masculine energy, this man may initially appear cold or even cruel. This is because he steadfastly refuses to play the prescribed roles their unconscious has scripted for him. He does not attempt to rescue them. He does not engage in chasing behavior. He does not emotionally collapse when challenged. He holds his own center unwavering, and by doing so, he fundamentally disrupts their entrenched fantasies and expectations. He becomes dangerous, not because he inflicts harm, but because he simply cannot be used or controlled by their unconscious patterns. His inherent value is non-negotiable. His focused attention is not freely given to just anyone. His soul is not available for temporary rent. This is the essence of Jungian integration. The powerful energy of the anima is no longer impulsively projected outward onto others. It is courageously reclaimed and integrated inward, becoming a source of inner strength. And when a man attains this level of internal wholeness, his presence speaks with a power and authority that transcends mere words. He no longer desperately seeks love from others as a means to feel alive. He brings the vibrant energy of life into the connection, transforming the very nature of love itself. And once you achieve this level of profound inner sovereignty, the entire dynamic of relationship fundamentally changes. Because at that point, you are no longer striving to impress women. You are, through the sheer force of your embodied presence, awakening something essential within them. Carl Jung's message was never about rejecting women. It was a call to consciously withdraw projection, to cultivate the capacity to see clearly, to cease chasing fleeting reflections, and instead embark on the sacred journey of reclaiming the powerful light already residing within. Do you perceive beauty in her? Then turn inward and cultivate beauty in your own life and soul. Do you admire her mystery? Explore the vast, uncharted mystery within your own being. Do you crave her emotional depth? Forge a deep, intimate connection with the landscape of your own soul. This is the core essence of individuation, not striving for external perfection, but courageously becoming whole from within. And only when you stand firmly grounded in your own wholeness can you genuinely meet a woman as an equal. Not as a savior who completes you, not as a seductive force to be pursued, not as a surrogate mother figure, not merely as a source of inspiration, but as another human being in her full, authentic complexity. Only at this profound level of connection can love finally become truly real. But let there be no romanticization of this path. The process of reclaiming and integrating your anima is rarely poetic. It is often brutally challenging. It demands that you cease outsourcing your deepest longings onto others. It requires you to bravely sit with your own inner hunger, your profound silence, your raw ache, without automatically reaching for a woman to soothe or fill the void. It makes the absolute demand that you learn to hold yourself to become fundamentally worthy in your own eyes, to stop begging for external reflection, and instead begin to shine authentically from within. This is the fundamental divide separating the unconscious man from the integrated one. The unconscious man desperately needs her to feel whole, believing she holds the key to his completion. The integrated man finally understands with profound clarity. She was never the answer. She was, and is, the illuminating mirror. Jung did not teach men to worship women nor to fear them. His central teaching was the imperative necessity of reclaiming the feminine principle within themselves. Not to idolize this inner force, not to suppress it out of fear, and certainly not to chase it endlessly in external lovers' fleeting fantasies or unfulfilled dreams. His teaching was to bring her home, to integrate this sacred energy, to honor her as an essential vital part of one's own complete soul. Only then can a man navigate the world unshakably grounded in his own being. Not because he has somehow eradicated his emotions, but because his emotions no longer wield absolute control over him. And when you evolve into that kind of man, something fundamental shifts. You cease falling for mere potential projected onto others. You stop tragically mistaking lust or infatuation for genuine love. You stop mislabeling your projections as her. You become so deeply rooted in the truth of your own being that the only women you consciously allow close are those who bring clarity and depth into your life, rather than confusion and instability. Jung wasn't offering conventional dating advice or a guaranteed method to get the girl. His life's work was dedicated to helping men reclaim the lost fragments of their own souls. His central warning echoes through the decades: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Most men caught in these cycles believe they are simply unlucky in love. They were not unlucky. They were profoundly unconscious. They tragically mistook obsessive pursuit for deep affection. They labeled emotional chaos as intense chemistry. They chased compelling projections, and in their inevitable collapse, blamed the women who merely reflected their own unintegrated selves. But the profound, often terrifying truth that Jung grasped, and that many men are still deeply afraid to confront, is this: women were never the fundamental problem in these dynamics. Your own unconscious was. And until you courageously face that truth head-on, you will remain perpetually ruled by the unintegrated feminine within, tragically never fully loved by her authentic, embodied presence. The world does not need more men who can merely identify red flags in others. It desperately needs men who possess the inner fortitude to walk through their own internal fire without fleeing men who stop blaming women and instead commit to the one transformative practice no dating guru can teach: profound shadow work. You do not heal your life by attempting to fix the women you attract. You transform your life by courageously integrating the very fragments of yourself that you have spent years projecting onto them. Your inner chaos, own it. Your deep longing, fearlessly explore it. Your searing heartbreak, allow it to be the initiation that forges you anew. Jung never advocated for avoiding women. His message was far more profound. Face yourself so completely, so relentlessly, that no woman can ever again unconsciously steal or claim your soul. That is the stark, transformative truth. She was never the ultimate destination you were seeking. She was always the mirror reflecting the path back to yourself. And once you truly grasp that truth, the powerful spell of projection breaks. The necessary grief for what was lost begins. The real transformative work commences. And the wounded boy trapped inside you. He finally begins to heal, allowing the integrated man to emerge. Not the man women might idealize in fantasy, not the man culture superficially rewards, but the man who moves through the world with quiet clarity, because he no longer seeks his wholeness in the gaze of others. He has found it irrevocably within his own eyes. This is Carl Jung's enduring, often forgotten truth. For men, women are not here to complete you. They are here often unconsciously to confront you, to serve as powerful reflections of what you have abandoned or neglected within your own soul. You do not become a man by external conquest or seduction. You become a man by courageously integrating the sacred feminine principle within yourself. Only then do you cease the exhausting pursuit. Only then can you finally see clearly. Only then can you experience authentic love, without the tragic cost of losing yourself in the process. So if you are weary of the recurring chaos, the predictable heartbreak, the persistent confusion in your relationships, do not look outward for the solution. Turn with courage and determination inward. Because the woman you have been searching for, the source of the completion you seek, she has always in essence been buried deep inside the integrated man you are still perhaps afraid to become.